All right, so it is Monday, August 2nd, and today, at least in San Francisco, they have just now reintroduced the mask mandate in the wake of the Delta variant, and it seems that they are implementing other mask mandates and other COVID restrictions across the country as the Delta variant spreads. This is a quicker video on just how I'm processing that and how I've gotten to the place where I'm okay with these restrictions again. So let's start at the beginning. Last year when COVID started, I was actually one of the people who was a little bit stricter. I always wore my mask, didn't really do any social gatherings, used the year as just a time to connect with myself, start some hobbies such as this YouTube channel, start meditating, eating healthy. In a lot of ways, it was a great year. But then as soon as those vaccines were out and as soon as cases were down, I was the first one in line, ready to be done with these restrictions, ready to throw the mask away, ready to go back out to indoor restaurants and see my friends. And it was a nice few months of what seems like normalcy again. And it all culminated in a trip to Provincetown, which I just got back from a week ago, and which you can see more about if you check out the vlog, which was the last video that I made about it. And of course now Provincetown has made the news as being the center of this outbreak. And don't worry, I was there actually after all of the cases happened. And so we managed to really avoid that. But one thing I noticed was that in Provincetown, again, this was maybe the couple weeks after the outbreak, everyone was back in masks again. And I couldn't really understand what was going on. And I was a little bit resistant because at that time, the CDC guidance was that if you are fully vaccinated, you don't need a mask for any reason. And so I thought it was a little bit overly cautious. And part of me was even a little bit annoyed and frustrated that, hey, there's all these people. No one wants to go back to normal life, why not? So then I get back home about a week ago and I notice a couple days later that, hey, the CDC has actually changed this guidance. They now think that with the Delta variant, people who have been vaccinated can both get it and potentially transmit it onto others. And so therefore, they are now recommending that you should be wearing a mask, even if you yourself are fully vaccinated. And honestly, my first reaction to this is really annoyance and frustration once again. Here's the CDC, who I've trusted this entire last year, and they are asking the vaccinated to keep the restrictions up, ostensibly to help protect the unvaccinated who have chosen already not to get the vaccine, and so therefore, why should we care about those people? And for a couple of days there, I was like, maybe I actually understand what it was like to be an anti-masker this entire past year. All I could think about was, it's pointless to mask vaccinated when we're not really the ones causing the spread. If we just keep suppressing it now with masks, it's not a permanent solution because as soon as we go back to normal, cases are just gonna flare up again. If we wanna mandate anything, it makes a lot more sense just to mandate vaccines for the unvaccinated instead of masks for the vaccinated. And so I spent a couple of days pretty upset and pretty convinced that I was just going to ignore this guidance, ignore the CDC guidance for the first time in my entire life. But then I started hearing about just more and more breakthrough cases around me, other friends who had gone to Provincetown before I did, and they got COVID, people who had been hanging out with each other in San Francisco and getting breakthrough cases. And then I started to think, well, do I have it? Could I have it? Could I have been part of that Provincetown cluster and not know about it? My throat does feel a little bit scratchy. I do feel like I have a little bit of a headache, and I do feel a little tired, even though I've been pretty sleep deprived, but fatigue is one of the symptoms of COVID. And so I start getting paranoid for a couple of days that maybe I have it. I get tested, it comes back negative, and then a few days later I get tested again, and then it comes back negative again. And then a day after my last test, which was Friday, today's a Monday, so this is Friday a few days ago. On the Saturday, after I get home for the afternoon and the evening, I'm like, I feel really tired, and I take a nap for a few hours, and I wake up and I just feel achy all over the place, and then I go back to sleep, and I end up sleeping for like 12 hours, which is completely unheard of for me. And I have headaches, a real headache this time, not just one that I had imagined, which I think was what was happening last week. And then like body aches and chills. And then I start worrying. I was like, oh my goodness, did I get one of those rare breakthrough infections? And then it's like, I've been going to work. I've been going to exercise class. Did I infect anyone else? If I have it, who am I gonna tell? How am I gonna tell them? When am I gonna tell them? There's this whole thing around feeling ashamed of actually getting COVID and getting blamed that, hey, it's your fault because you weren't careful or responsible enough. And so if you get COVID, it's your fault. And so I get through Sunday, which is yesterday, and I'm like, okay, I for sure have it based on these symptoms. There's no way I don't have it. And I wake up this morning, which is Monday, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work from home today. I usually go to the office, and I'm like, I'm gonna get tested. And I go to get my test, and they're like, it's gonna be ready in 2 hours, which is much faster than I thought. 2 hours later, I get my result, and it's still negative. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. After all that, my third negative test in the span of a week. I'm just so relieved that I don't have it, and I don't have to go through all this stuff around quarantining and all this trouble. And so number one, I'm just relieved that I don't have it. And then number two, the whole ordeal just made me think a little bit different about some of the restrictions that they're starting to reimpose. Now, I still don't really think masking the vaccinated is a permanent solution. I'm still in favor of vaccine mandates above and beyond just masking. And I'm still a little bit annoyed that we have to be under these restrictions again. But I just realized once again that I just really don't want to deal with the hassles of getting COVID, wondering if I have transmitted it onto someone else. And so some of these restrictions can reduce the chances of even just that happening. It's probably a net positive to my life. And it's like, it could be a lot worse. Realistically, almost everything that I really want to do, I can still do under these new guidelines. It's nowhere near as bad as 2020, where they were literally shutting everything down, which I hope they don't do, and I don't expect that they'll do. And even if they do that, I was able to handle that, and I'm sure I will be able to handle it again, and it won't last forever. And in the meantime, I will be focusing on trying to live my life the best that I can, focusing on what's in my control, and just moving on. So I hope you found that somewhat interesting or helpful as you're thinking about how we're taking a step back and how you're processing that. If you have a different opinion or a different story around how you process all this, I'd really love to hear, so leave a comment. And as they always say, if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more. All right, thanks for watching. Peace.